You're listening to Columbia's Morning News on 103.5 FM and 560 AM WVOC. Once again, here's Gary David and Christopher Thompson.
Hey, it's approaching 8:15 on a Thursday morning, the 2nd of October. Good to have you along this morning. Last couple of days, we've talked on a number of occasions about this story that's gotten national attention after the testimony the other day of the father of Logan Federico, who was executed in a friend's home here in Columbia earlier this year by a guy, allegedly, Alexander Dickey, who's had 39 arrests, 25 of those felonies, has spent some time behind bars, but was out walking the streets that night in Columbia and involved in a number of crimes on a crime spree, including killing 22-year-old Logan Federico. Her father's emotional, impassioned testimony a couple of days ago, highlighting this. And remember, the dad says that he's not heard from the solicitor's office. The solicitor's office says, well, we have had conversations. Had one just about a week and a half or so ago. But you understand it. He's not happy about a lot of things with this. Matter of fact, we had Ralph Norman a few days ago calling for the impeachment of Byron Gibson, the Fifth Circuit solicitor, over all this. We want to spend a couple of minutes this morning and talk to Brian Bennett, who joins us. Brian is a retired state law enforcement officer, the founder and an instructor at Clearview Justice Training and Consulting. And you've had some experience with this sort of thing in the past. Brian, good morning, and it's good to have you with us this morning. We appreciate it, buddy.
Yes, sir. Good morning. This issue, or these issues of information or lack of information or lack of communication is not a unusual thing, unfortunately. Back in 2015, I was part of a task force that was assigned to collect some data related to South Carolina and the criminal justice system. And one of the findings that we submitted to then Nikki Haley's governor's office was essentially that our systems that we have in South Carolina are very antiquated as far as hardware. There's some incompatibility with software as well. And we used to have a term called the walkover, and what that meant is that when law enforcement made charges and charges were forwarded to the solicitor's office, we literally put them in a folder and walked them over to the office. Mm-hmm. And, computer systems were designed to make that sharing of information a little bit easier, perhaps on a local level. But on a state level, there's some deficiencies in jurisdictions knowing what's happening in other jurisdictions in a quick way. And people have to understand that it's not just communication between law enforcement agencies, but it's a need of communication between all law enforcement agencies, all the solicitor's offices, and even the court systems. And what we find still today is that there is slow input of information, some information that isn't entered at all. And so things are not updated as they should be in a timely manner. And because the systems are not connected to a central hub, you even have a breakdown in communication between law enforcement agencies. You have a breakdown in communication between court jurisdictions and solicitors' offices. So we don't have a really good system that is consistent with current and updated information. As I think you and Christopher would agree, the most current and updated information allows for the best and more informed decisions when deciding,
Sure.
What type of bond to set, sentencing, issues and guidelines, and whether someone or how long someone spends incarcerated.
So this is really, you're talking about two different things here. So on the one hand, you're talking about the system being antiquated, and it leads to lack of communication between departments. And each of these departments has their own, like, victims advocate sections, right, that are responsible for this. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Okay. You have individuals who are called victim advocates. They could be certified law enforcement officers. They could be civilians acting in that capacity. But most law enforcement agencies, if not all, your solicitor's offices and even your judicial systems and your Department of Corrections on the local and state level have individuals who act in that capacity who are designed to connect a victim or their family with state and federal services to provide resources, but also to keep them informed on what is going on with those cases. And sometimes it's assumption, sometimes it's thinking that someone else has already done it. But there's going to be a breakdown there as well.
But your report, and this goes back to what did you say, 2015, 2016, when you co-chaired this commission.
Correct.
Been 10 years basically. But that's also why this guy was on the streets after all these arrests. 25 felony arrests in a decade. That too, your report I think found that. Again, this same lack of communication between agencies and court systems and such that sometimes they just don't realize what somebody's record is. I find that unfathomable, man.
Well, particularly in this day and age of the advancement of technology, and as Mr. Federico had explained, he had some friends that were friends essentially, who were able to look up data on public information websites that actually found information quicker than what was available or found in what is the systems that are controlled by the state.
Wow.
So that's a bit scary as well.
Well, it sounds like Brian, that the work your commission did, the task force did 10 years ago, unfortunately, hasn't borne a whole lot of fruit over the last decade. Would you agree? Has it gotten any better?
It may have gotten better to some degree, but I don't think in any measurable capacity. Of course, and that was just a very small part of our report, but it obviously highlighted a very major concern, and the recommendations that we made all had what was the financial cost or what would be the financial burden to make adjustments. And in that report, that aspect of the report obviously came with the greatest amount of financial cost to the state, because other states have infrastructure systems already set up where all their databases are tied into one central hub. So if you query something in the court system, you can find information across the prosecutorial system and the law enforcement system simultaneously. For us to do that here in South Carolina, with the different agencies, different hardware, different software, and no central hub would essentially cost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm reminded of the story, and I don't remember the guy's name, but this was a year or two back when we had this individual who had been in prison for a murder charge and wound up being imprisoned in Arizona or somewhere out west, and he was released. Yet here we go again. The family of the victim, the murdered man, they were never notified. They found out about this because somebody who worked at that prison out west tracked him down and called him up and said, "Hey, this guy's back out on the streets again." Crazy.
And we see this also too in the federal system from time to time, because how many times have we seen where some mass shooter or something, and if we find out, they knew some information about him 2 years ago. I can remember a very specific case out of Texas where a man had been dishonorably discharged from the military, charged with a domestic violence offense, and should have been prohibited from owning a firearm, but that system was never entered into the federal database by the Air Force.
Yeah,
he ended up killing 26 people.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Well, so it's going to take money, in other words, and 10 years later, after your report, they still haven't found a way to get it fixed. It doesn't sound like it. They need to get it fixed. Brian, thank you so much for your time this morning. We really appreciate that, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Have a good one. Brian Bennett, retired state law enforcement officer and the founder of Clearview Justice Training and Consulting.
Your world happens here.
But let me be clear.